Hi folks, Florida Man here, and what you're listening to now is another part of Talleyrand. What follows is Talleyrand, 1905, the Italian perspective.
So bravo, France, you did a great job. Two powers who are really non-existent to bring them back into the game, right?
Yeah.
I picked up Budapest. That worked out as planned.
Budapest and Serbia.
Yep. So what happened in winter was not that great. So first thing I do is I reach out to France and say, hey, at least you, or I reach out to Russia and I said, hey, you got 2 out of the 3 supply centers. You know, that's not bad. So first thing, that Russia picks up 2 supply centers. They've been kind of struggling, and this is their first good turn that everything's gone well for them. And I reach out to Russia and say, hey, congrats on getting, 2 out of 3. And the very first thing Russia says to me is, when are you going to give me Budapest? No concern that Germany just lost 3 supply centers. 3. No, like, hey, how do we get on Turkey now? What's the next step? None of that. Just, when are you going to give me Budapest? And that made me really worried. And so Russia and I ended up in this fight over the winter, where Russia then said, I'm going to build an army in Moscow and an army in Sevastopol. And I told him, like, there's no reason to build in Sevastopol unless you're planning to go for me. And they insisted on doing that. And I pointed out to him, like, France has a lot of fleets and Germany just got a hit. You need to build a fleet in St. Pete. And Russia would not have it. And they insisted that we go back to the original agreement. The original agreement back when Germany was in power and Turkey had made ground was that Russia would get Budapest, Romania, Bulgaria, Constantinople, and Ankara. And I would get Smyrna, Serbia, and Trieste. That was the original agreement a couple of years ago, but the board has changed significantly since then.
Yes.
They wanted to abide by those terms. And I pointed it out to them. I do not want to continue to be in this alliance if it's going to get Russia plus 3 supply centers and me plus 0. They would get Budapest, Con, and Ankara, and I would lose Budapest and pick up Smyrna. And I pointed out to them, like, we need to change the objectives of our alliance here. And Russia would not have it. They were very adamant against this. And I tried sending, like, this really long explanation of, like, look, this is why this is a bad idea. We need to do something else. I want to have a way forward. And I pointed out, like, I would be sending 6 units to go fight France while they sent just 2. And that's just setting Russia up for a solo. Russia was not having it. And then Russia sent a message through the 3-way with me in Germany saying, like, I feel most comfortable only with armies. And so I'm going to do armies in St. Pete and Moscow. And an army in St. Pete is absolutely worthless. But it got him out of Sevastopol. So it's like, But what I decided, like, Russia had this 180-degree personality shift. The moment Russia had 8 supply centers, was in a strong position, and had a good winter, they were willing to throw it all away and go back to demanding whatever they wanted rather than cooperating. And I don't like that.
I would imagine not.
France has honestly been very honest with me the entire game. I've had a good relationship with Germany, and Russia has lied a couple of times in their moves, which has then made things worse. And so one of my rules is never stab in spring unless it cannot be undone. And so I'm going to be stabbing in spring.
Well, you must feel as though it can't be undone then.
It can't. I feel like it can't be undone. That's the hope. I can share my screen. So Russia had this 180-degree personality flip where they were very demanding and they wanted all these supply centers back to original agreement, which is fair. Like, I'll give them that to an extent. But I tried explaining, like, the board has shifted. We need to shift our objectives. And I told them very clearly, like, the fact that I'm trying to negotiate with you rather than stab you should indicate I want to play ball. And then Russia completely shifted back. And they were like, okay, I'll do these 2 armies instead. And then asked me, like, what is the plan moving forward? And that just made me really uncomfortable that Russia went from cooperating to fighting me really hard and being kind of a little borderline rude to all of a sudden saying, okay, Italy, tell me what to do. And that just makes me really uneasy. And so I gave them a plan, like, this is what you should do. And I reached out to France, and I said, hey, France, if you will let the Germans retake Munich, do not move into Ruhr, then I think I can get the Germans to help me fight Russia. And I reached out to Turkey, because I gave Turkey the orders last year that let them get Constantinople back in. So I got some rapport there. And I said, all right, let's cooperate. And so I'm going to support Turkey from Aegean into Bulgaria, south coast, while Turkey bounces Russia out of Ankara. And so that will destroy the army in Bulgaria as I double tap Romania.
Interesting. I see that you could do some real damage to Russia here.
So that is destroying one Russian unit and taking two supply centers. And they can't undo that. So don't stab in spring unless it can't be undone. And if you're going to stab thoroughly. So I'm working with Turkey on this. Germany does not yet know that I'm stabbing Russia because I want to keep on good terms with them and I can't let my stab get leaked. And so Russia is going to keep that army in Warsaw. And so my plan is for fall, Russia will retaliate and pull Warsaw down to Galatia. But if France stays out of Ruhr, then Germany will feel safe and they can move Silesia into Warsaw. Which will be a -3 supply center hit to Russia this year. So that's my plan. I'm essentially forcing Germany into an alliance with me and France. We'll see if it works.
I like it. It's bold and would be devastating for Russia.
My analysis is if I send all my units to go fight France and prop up Germany, Russia will play ball until it's convenient. And then the moment it's convenient, Russia is going to try and steamroll. So I would rather fight Russia now while I can than in 3 years when all of my units are committed against France. Because once I've committed against France, I will not have the time to reposition against Russia.
I think I think I totally get that decision. I think it was Machiavelli who said war, something to the effect of, war cannot be prevented. It can only be delayed to your disadvantage.
Yeah.
I think it applies really well to diplomacy. So is there anything else you wanted to tell me about this upcoming spring?
Turkey told me that France is planning on stabbing me. We'll see. I don't have much credibility in it. But I think if France sees I have fully committed against Russia, they will fully commit on the Northern Front. So,
I mean, if I were France, I'd want to commit to the Northern Front. Honestly, like there's so much easy pickings there.
Yeah. Yes.
If he goes after it now while it's still a soft target, because Russia could, if Russia withstands his fight with you, Russia could reinforce the north and build that third fleet, and Germany could, I don't know, try and take back a few of his centers, and France could end up with kind of a gaggle of medium-sized powers on his borders that's not really desirable.
Yeah. If
at his expense
had built a fleet in St. Pete that would have indicated they were willing to fight Russia or to fight France, and I would not be stabbing them right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I do think that would be the wise move if you're thinking of fighting France.
Yep.
Fleet in St. Pete, because with his 2 fleets he can make a difference, but with a third fleet we see that France only has 3 himself. So with a third fleet, or
4,
France has 4 himself that are on the Northern Front. He has a 5th one in Spain, but it's committed to bouncing with you, I'm guessing. And so with 4 fleets between Russia and Germany, they match France at sea, and they can definitely hold him back, unless France just outthinks them and or gets a lot of English help with that one fleet. But there's no now there's no chance of
Nope.
of Russia and Germany together forming a dominant naval presence.
No.
They'll be on the defensive.
If Russia had done a fleet, it would have meant they were willing to cooperate with us. But that army just means long-term plans for a solo. I can dismantle Russia's solo. I can't really dismantle France's right now.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think you're probably... I don't know. I think this is probably a prudent move.
I hope so. We'll see what happens in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Well, I will look forward to that, and I'll also look forward to hearing what you have to say in the fall.
Yeah. If my plan works and I get the Germans to take Warsaw, and we really roll back the Russians.
The Russian perspective. Fall of this year was, I think, a pretty big season.
Yeah, so because I didn't take... I'm not sure how exactly Italy justified this, but he justified that rather than supporting me into Budapest this turn, he would support himself in and get Germany to bounce him in Trieste. And not being in a position to bargain, I accepted this, and he also offered me Bulgaria, so I do get a center. So that was arranged, the walk into Bulgaria.
Well, that's rather nice of him then.
Well, I don't know. It's sort of like a territory I can't defend, so maybe he'll be taking it from me soon. We'll see. But Turkey, I don't know how, just tactically manages to hold on, no problem. And Italy isn't much help in that regard. I mean, Italy could have tapped the Aegean, and I would have gotten a build off Turkey. I still get a build, but
Now it's off Italy.
Now it's off Italy, and Turkey is hanging on to the last minute.
Turkey's the problem.
Turkey is a thorn in my side, and that's what he wants to be, and I don't blame him, but that's that. And then whatever France is cooking up this turn is, to say the least, I don't know why everyone wants to help France. I don't know why Austria wants to help France. I don't know why England wants to help France. I guess England's bitter about me taking Sweden, so he figures he'll just throw to France.
Well, I'm gonna just state, I haven't spoken to either England or Austria about this year, but I can tell you why they want to help France.
Well, they're bitter about Germany.
I mean, I don't think that's it. If you look at the moves that France had them do, those moves keep them alive.
Well, I suppose so, but it's not going to last very long.
Probably not, but most people will choose being alive for a little bit rather than an instant death sentence. I mean,
I suppose so.
England has a shot now. It's something. It's some kind of survival. Maybe if he can figure out something clever diplomatic.
He has more probability of continuing in the game than he did if he were completely eliminated. That much is actually accurate.
It is higher than 0. And so France said, I will definitely give you this higher than 0 chance of being in the game. And nobody else came along and offered something equal or better than that. And so England said, all right, I will take my home center of Edinburgh back. And France told Austria, who seemed to be out of the game, I'll support you into Munich. And Austria said, okay, I'll take it.
See, I just don't understand. Austria had all but given up, as far as I could tell. But I think I understand him getting England to help him, but Austria is such a wild card that him working with anyone is a surprise.
You know, I think that it's interesting about Austria. Austria's, I mean, he did do some weird stuff, like that season where he ordered all of his units into the Black Sea.
That's right.
Even though they were armies. Where he tried to do that. So Austria has had at least one season where he did something weird and kind of legendary. But I also think that initially, at least, Austria wanted to do well, and he's kept issuing orders. He hasn't quit the game, and
right.
So I think maybe people, I don't know if you guys gave up on trying to communicate with him at some point.
Yes.
And, yeah, like if you have no luck with that after a while, I understand giving up. But
Well, it doesn't look like France gave up, and I guess it worked for his benefit.
it might have even been the first message France sent him or something. Who knows?
Well, that's true, but still.
But
France.
yeah, it was the perfect opportunity for both of them. I just thought that was really interesting this season.
So yeah, I'm a bit wary of the way things stand, and France is trying to convince me not to build fleets, probably in the north or the south of St. Petersburg. I don't think he cares about anywhere else. But in any case, I hadn't really thought about building more fleets because I already have built a northern fleet, which was,
Yep. But now the space is empty, and you're going to get 2 builds, so you're going to have choices.
Well, I was thinking armies, but I'll talk to the other players and figure out what I want to do. I had a sudden respite of 2 builds after having some not so good turns, and I don't know if it will last. I think Italy might be getting to a point where he can feel comfortable enough to stab, but I guess that hasn't happened yet because France is still a threat.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm guessing if you were Italy, would you be? Do you think you'd be gearing up to stab Russia pretty soon?
If I were Italy, the way that Italy's been acting, I think Italy is still going to work with me.
Well, I wasn't saying the way Italy has been acting. I was saying if you just jumped into Italy. I
know what you said, but I don't have an answer for you.
I mean, I'm just saying, assuming like if you think of yourself,
if I could switch to Italy right now, if there was like a switcheroo card, ever played
a reverse card,
reverse Uno, then I would not be stabbing Russia yet.
I see. What would you be waiting for to stab Russia?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question because it's not like Russia can help with France. I guess they can help by not being a problem to Italy, but I'm not sure how much of a problem they would be to Italy because.
Well, I don't want to influence your strategic thinking.
Yeah, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, well, what do you think you'd be? What do you think you could do against France or to help Germany?
I don't know. I guess I could support Berlin to hold, support something into. Can't really support into Munich at this point because he has an army in Silesia. Yeah, I think it would take some trust on Germany's part to have me supporting him to hold from what have been DMZ zones in the past. So we'll see.
I don't know that it would require that much trust considering he's just lost Munich.
Right, he doesn't have much of a choice, so.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like Germany's position, I'm sure you gather it's pretty wrecked at this point.
Yeah, he only has 4 centers, and at this point in the game, that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, and that's not a place he expected to be, I don't think, because France, by France's lonesome, could only have taken Holland, probably. So, I mean. And also could have taken Edinburgh, but without English help, the Edinburgh unit could have retreated to Liverpool.
Right. He played things very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Silesia didn't support Munich. I thought that's what I told Germany to do that, and I thought he would do it.
I mean, I'm guessing that just like you, probably Germany thought that Austria was out of this, and Austria thought, no, I'm not out of this. That's just my guess, because I certainly understand why that came as a surprise, and why somebody who thought that Austria was out of this would probably be less worried about Munich than about some other spaces.
Right, but then he could have used Ruhr and Burgundy to take Munich. France could have, so
yeah,
he's really leaving things to chance.
Sort of. I mean,
Germany is.
Yeah, sort of, but I think from Germany's perspective, he probably looked and he saw that he could defend Munich with Silesia, and therefore France would know that the only sure thing for France was if he tried to take Holland.
Yeah.
And so he tried to outthink France, and France outgambited him.
That's right.
And we see the result, which is that Germany has 4 centers left, as you pointed out. They're scattered. I don't think Germany is going to get to build any new units.
He has to disband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see next?
I see France continuing to succeed against Germany even without my help, just because the German position is so bad. I don't know if Italy's going to let me have the parts of the Balkans that he's promised me. He certainly has not been helping me with Turkey in such a way that has gotten me a lot of builds. So Turkey's still becoming a thorn in my side, and Italy is not putting an end to that. So I don't know. I think Italy's going to continue to hang on. And that, I guess, makes the potential alliance with France somewhat appealing, but also not. I don't know. I don't see myself going back to Turkey because, burned that bridge a long time ago. But we'll see.
I see. Do you have any ideas about how you might break through that situation?
I guess I'm going to lay down some armies and see what I can do in the Balkans, but we'll see.
Okay. Interesting. Sounds like you might be gearing up for war with Italy then.
I don't know about war with Italy. I think Italy will probably just keep to our agreements. If he doesn't, though, then yes.
All right. Well, we'll see if those still hold, I guess.
Exactly. We'll see.
Sure. I do feel that there's a potential for conflict there.
There is potential, that's for sure.
What do you see happening in this crucial Western conflict? I mean, I know you said you think France is going to win with or without your help, but how long do you see it lasting, and how do you see it evolving? Do you think Italy is going to get involved? Do you think it's going to begin to threaten your stuff?
Well, Italy is moving east, right?
He does appear to be. So
I don't know what Italy is up to. I guess he wants his piece of Turkey, and he's not. And him and France I think him and France are working together, even though they appear to be bouncing. I think they are, one way or another, keeping each other in the game.
Coordinated bounces are not uncommon as a way to either throw other people off or keep certain spaces empty of units. Because if one of them has a fleet in the West Med, I see how that's probably threatening to the other. So you don't think Italy is going to come to Germany's rescue, which I have to admit would at this point be sort of difficult.
I think he might.
Mm-hmm. And if he's moving east, what do you think of that? Do you think that means he's going to give you more help with Turkey? Do you think that means he's going to fight you? Or what do you think?
Probably fight me.
Are we in a pessimistic frame of mind then?
Always.
Oh, well, I guess it is diplomacy. So, pessimism and paranoia are not misplaced here. I have an entirely unrelated question, but tell me, did you have any more thoughts you wanted to share about France trying to get you to not build fleets?
Just that if I had wanted to build fleets in the first place, I would build them, but I never wanted to build them in the first place. So it's sort of like a problem that I didn't know I had before France brought it up.
Yeah. Funny.
So I'll work it out with the other players and see what Italy says and so on.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think I don't know if France. I don't know that France. Well, I guess France could, in theory, come after me in by way of Barents or something like that, North Sea and Norwegian, but we would need Barents. He would need some other part of it too, because I have all Scandinavia. But I just I guess his main thought is probably that if I get armies, they're probably going to be used to go after the German, which is not what I'm thinking of at the moment.
The French perspective. We see that you continue advancing against Germany, but you decided to make use of all of the minor powers.
Yeah, I think the idea is just to cripple Germany, right? If he had 7 builds, and if I made this attack and didn't cripple him, he had plenty of potential to come back from it. So my whole idea is, how can I force Germany to lose as many units as possible in this turn?
I will say, Germany looks pretty darn crippled to me.
Yeah, it's not looking good for him.
I mean, that's for sure. Down to being at the same rough status as Turkey.
Yeah. And of course,
bad year.
Yeah, not a good year for him. That's for sure.
Very unfortunate year. So I see you in Italy continued bouncing in West Med, and Italy shifts stuff back east because you have clearly manifested through your moves your intention to move against Germany, and you've shown that you're committed to that. So what did you say to England and Austria? Did you say, what did you promise them?
Sure. I mean, I talked to England as just like, look, if I don't help you, you're out of the game this turn, right? You're like, Russia is going to take Sweden, right? And you're going to die. Or you could stay alive a little while longer at least, right? I can get you back in the game. Sorry that I killed you earlier. It was Germany's idea. It's all Germany's idea, of course, right? Let's be friends again. I'll keep you around for a while, and you can stay in the game, and you can help me against Germany and help me against Russia, and I'll help you into Edinburgh. I think it's an obvious choice for him, right? It's a choice between being out of the game and not being out of the game, right? So, no reason not to accept it.
He doesn't even need to ask how long a while is.
Yeah, right. It gives him the opportunity, right, versus guaranteed defeat, right?
Certainly.
And similar pitch to Austria, like, hey, Austria, Germany's supposed to be your buddy, but like he's hanging out in Vienna now, like he's clearly not your buddy. Why don't I just help you into Munich, get back at him, have a little revenge. I think I was a little bit more explicit with Austria that, I'll help you into Munich, but beyond that, I'm expecting you to help me take the rest of the German center. So you have to help me take Kiel and Berlin eventually. And whether Austria holds on to Munich for how long, who knows? But he, of course, was also gung-ho about that.
Wow, Austria must have been sort of relieved.
Yeah, I mean, he also would be dead if I hadn't supported him in this turn, right? So that's
you're dead.
Yeah, and I think it's from the board position. I think it's obvious I'm kind of taking the board leader position at this point, and from that position, it's actually best to have as many little parties around, because I think if it's just one or two countries left, then it's actually it's easy for them to form a coalition against me, right? If I've left Germany at say like 6 centers and Italy is going to be up to like I think 7 or 8 this turn, they could gang up on me pretty effectively. But now it's right, it's a lot. Then I can sway things and do all the negotiation as part of diplomacy.
Oh wait, no, it isn't. Yes, you are in that space now where you have I think a significantly better shot at solo than I thought you had before these orders processed. And I think this efficient elimination of Germany that made use of the minor powers around was probably. I think I would say it probably exceeded expectations, because there was a possibility you were just gonna eliminate Germany the way somebody else would eliminate Germany, which generally would be that they would just make a straight attack at Germany themselves and use the units at their disposal. I like that you made use of the little powers that were on the brink of death that surrounded you guys, because I think that made for a really sublime turn. You yourself technically only gained, 1 unit?
Yeah, I only got Holland.
Yeah, you only got Holland. But Germany lost 3 centers. Germany's done! Oh my gosh! And now you have kind of a free hand to figure out how you're going to deal with your other opponents. Tell me, what do you what do you think is important for viewers to know about the diplomacy that happened in this crucial season or this crucial year for you?
Sure. I think the key was really making sure Italy felt like I was still his friend. Right. That is probably this turn would be looking very different, and my situation would be much more precarious if, say, Italy had supported themselves into Western Med and was like engulfed of Leon, right? I would still, yes, Germany would be crippled, but I would have to be pulling units back and be worrying a lot about Italy and defending there, right? Versus, I think this position is one where, Italy, I'm his friend, I'm his buddy, I've been honest with him the entire game. He's going to face east, I'm going to face north, and we're good, right? Diplomatically, I think that was by far the most important thing. Germany, I think the spring turn is really where the diplomacy mattered, to make sure he actually moved east, right? Despite his many attempts to get me to back off this fall and say Italy's my enemy, the truth is I'm committed to the attack at this point. So there's no there's no real room for me to back off. Though maybe if he's down to 3 centers, maybe I can find some way to say, oh, never mind. Look, I'm actually I only took Holland, and that wasn't even originally your home center, so we can be friends again in the future. And maybe there's room for that in later stages. As he's facing death the same way that England was, for example. But for now, it's really all about that crippling blow and keeping Italy from attacking me.
Yeah, that was great. I think you've just kind of guaranteed your own security, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's also why I attacked England at first too. We haven't talked about that before, but it's just as France, the biggest threats to your survival to the end game is in order England and Germany, right? And with England basically eliminated Germany on his last lives. At this point, it's very unlikely that I don't somehow make it to whatever the end game is, whether that's a solo or part of some draw. That it's a position that's very hard for anyone to attack me from. That even if Italy does, I have enough builds that I could easily, put up a defense and put up a stalemate line in the south there. I need to.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think you're going to survive this. Anything tactically or strategically in addition to that you feel like viewers should know about this past year?
No, I mean, I think the move to Liverpool, I think is
pretty self-explanatory.
Important. Yeah, that's obvious. I think, and I think I think it probably is good to note that I pretty much predicted Germany's moves exactly. Some people might have tried to get more centers, or might have tried to support Holland, do a different attack on Holland. But this was pretty much I knew that this was the only way that I could guarantee myself Holland, and I definitely needed to guarantee myself a build because I was still pretty nervous that Italy might still continue with the attack, in which case I absolutely needed to be able to have a build to plop down in Marseille and defend there.
I think you were, that was your most delicate potential moment, but you've passed through it now, and with flying colors, I would say. And good on attacking Germany while his guard was down, as you're supposed to in this game. You're not supposed to fight fair. Now I want to know, what do you see coming next? What's going to happen next year, and who are your next targets?
Sure. I think next year, I like my position. I don't love it, mainly just because of the diplomatic situation that Russia is, Russia is really my primary partner here. If you look at the board positioning, that Russia is the natural person to help me with Germany and to finish them off, the natural person to push Italy from the east as the game goes forward. So I think I'm going to be definitely talking to Russia a fair bit about how I make sure that he follows through with the attack, and particularly that I don't want to start building up an even bigger northern navy than he already has. Right, I really want him to be focused on the land. So it's going to be this coming year is going to be finishing off Germany with the help of Russia. Right, and I think I'll plan to take back Edinburgh because bye England. That was just a little. You had your chance, and then. Probably, hopefully pick up Kiel or something like that, and then, just play some defense in the south and make sure Italy doesn't go for me. Turkey is another part of the relationship, but Turkey is still very much alive, right?
Turkey,
he did a pretty
Turkey won the bet, the coin toss or whatever in the southeast. I see that his move of Ankara to Khan here was successful, whereas Russia's move of Khan to Ankara was not successful. So Turkey remains at 3 and remains a thorn in both Russia and Italy's side, as you could hope.
Yeah, and the Turkish player is so far not been pleased with me. I think he wishes I was attacking Italy more aggressively, of course. So, but I'm going to do what I can to try to talk to him, try to get him to stay in the game and stay friendly. He doesn't even have to like me, to be honest. He just has to attack his two obvious enemies, which is Russia and Italy, right? Which he's going to do regardless, but I might offer him some, advice on how to do that and how to structure that most effectively.
And I know you just said that you think Russia is your obvious partner against Germany. What are you hoping that Russia will do, and what are you going to try and ask him to do?
Yeah. So my hope is I think I'm going to talk to him about builds first, right? I'm going to say, Russia, you've got a good position here. He actually is going to have the same number of centers as me at the end of this year, I believe. Especially since it's nice that he snuck into Bulgaria, because that means that Italy's not going to love him right now, right? maybe that was arranged. It could have been. I'm not really sure. I kind of assume it's not though, because there's no real reason for them to arrange that. So that's kind of a. I might say, okay, Russia, you should build another fleet or army in Sevastopol to protect against against Italy trying to retake those Balkan positions. So definitely do that, and I want to get Russia and Italy fighting, right? They're not really out and out fighting yet so far, and I think they collaborated a little bit against Austria earlier. But if they can get fighting, that's great for me. Then the other part is just keep the peace with Italy and keep him from moving against me, right? I think his fleets are still too close for comfort. Like, I wish his fleet was like an Eastern Med right now, right? Eastern Med and Aegean, and then I have nothing to worry about, and I can go in and steal Tunis whenever I want, right? That's the position I eventually want to get him into. And I think I think Italy and I have the strongest relationship of the remaining great powers, so I'm going to be talking to him a lot about what builds are, and really I think I'm going to say, look, Germany obviously attacked you, Russia attacked you, I've been honest with you, let's just, mop up this game and, be great friends going forward. Go ahead and you probably should push some armies because I want you to push up through Austria, right? So I'll say you need to take the whole Balkans for yourself. And yeah, that would be the focus with that relationship.
Interesting. And so I guess I should ask now, who do you see yourself getting your next dots from? Because Germany is just about to be gone. I mean, I know you're going to have to mop him up in Denmark and Kiel and Berlin, Kiel and Berlin, but that really shouldn't take too long unless Austria stops helping you and Russia proves hostile. After that, though, where do you see your next dots coming from?
Yeah, truth be told, probably Russia. Not a lot of Russian dots. Basically just need to take Scandinavia, right? My win plan for this was to take all the German centers, take Scandinavia, and then steal Tunis at some point, and that gets me to 18 centers. So
that works.
Yeah. So that's the current plan. If Russia proves to be taking the upper hand, and that seems impossible, maybe I'll do a big push into the Mediterranean and end up partnering with Russia and say, Russia, you have 2 fleets down there, build another, and we can just squeeze Italy between us. And that might be an adjustment. I think all those plans won't materialize for at least another year, right? Because for the next year, it's just me mobbing up Germany. Germany and England and Austria, for that matter, because I've kept some of these minor powers around. So I hope to stay on good terms with Russia and Italy for at least the next year.
Sounds like you have a pretty clear vision of where you want this to go. You have a plan, and that's one of the most important things. You really have an actual plan for where you're getting your dots from. And I can tell from the way you're talking about it that you are hoping for the solo, which is good. I like it.
Yeah, I always plan for the solo. And if I can't do it, I fall back to something else. But
yeah,
no reason not to plan for it.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to say before we stopped?
No, I think the only other observation I would have is that Russia is actually in a very strong position here. So I'm keeping a wary eye on that to make sure he doesn't expand further than me. At this point, he has a lot of potential for explosive growth.
Honestly, I think Russia was in a much better position before this season.
He was better to some extent, but if you look at the builds especially, right, he's going to have 3 builds this year, which is pretty good. And he controls Scandinavia completely. He has a lock on the Black Sea, pretty much. It's
3 builds?
Yeah.
I mean, Sweden.
So he gains
Bulgaria. He lost Khan, didn't he?
Oh yes, he did lose Khan. So maybe just 2 builds this year then.
Yeah, but still, he's doing well. I was just thinking, if I were Russia, I would wish that you hadn't demolished Germany quite so quickly, because Russia's role of helping you with that and mopping up Germany is almost completed. And before you had wiped out Germany, Russia could theoretically have chosen between the 2 of you. And if he wanted to, he could have sent some fleets to harass you. And now if he does that, he'll probably get crushed.
Yeah, he certainly still could say, Germany's the minor power here, and I'm going to side with him against the big bad France. But
good, but he'll have a much harder time.
Right, and also, that's also why diplomatically I wanted Germany to move against Russia, because now Russia's like, Germany's untrustworthy. He wanted to stab me, whereas France has been my friend the whole game. So I'm
Yeah, you might
feeling
think
good.
that way. A lot of players do.
Yeah.
The Austrian perspective. In fall, you mentioned you break your gunboat. Tell me how that happens.
Yeah, so France reached out, and I'm not shocked that he did because I left that guy in Tyrolia for a reason. This was kind of the reason. France made his move, reached out to me. I said, well, I haven't talked to France. And so
France hasn't
I've
had any dealings with you that would lead either of you to have a bad taste in your mouth.
That's right. I know I'm not gonna. I feel that I can engage with him without getting frustrated. So I read that message, and he said, "Would you take support in Munich?" I said, "I love support in Munich, and I'll do whatever you want with that unit after it's there." So he followed through, and he also, I thought he was going to double support me, and he made a really good guess, trusting that he could get me in with one support and also taking Holland at the same time. That was a great play.
Yeah, Holland was his only sure build this season. So I think he probably felt like he needed to take Holland because otherwise he would be attacking Germany and not gaining a build.
Right.
Since he, you see in the north, he also supports England into Edinburgh. He can't take it for himself right now unless he wants Germany to retreat into Liverpool.
Correct. And this is him making. I think he's playing great, but he's making great use of the smaller powers. He supported two of them into centers, and it's the reason why you want to stay on good terms with people in this game, because no matter what they do earlier to frustrate you, like when they're a two center power, how they feel about you personally is going to decide where their dots go, and France is taking full advantage.
Absolutely. England does not have any kind of trust with Russia, does not really have a good does not necessarily have a good relationship with Germany. Who knows what their actual relations are, but we can see that Russia's killing England right now, and so the only one who can really take advantage of England is France. And even though France is the one who's done most of the work of killing off England during this game and has gained almost the entirety of the English island already.
Yes.
It's kind of funny. And so, because of this giant gulp that France pulls off with you guys and his own units, Germany is reduced to 4 centers from 7.
Oh, wow, yeah. And one of them is useless. One of them is Vienna.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah, like we said, he can't defend it. Even more true now. Before he had armies that were kind of close by. Now he has a unit in Silesia, and he has vacant Kiel, and he has Denmark. This position is really broken. So what do you think? First of all, what do you think about the German position? What would you do to save it if you were in Germany?
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, he started well by doing what he had to do, which was begging Russia for forgiveness. Which I'm sure there's some sort of conversation there. He backed all the way away, and that's who he's got to be talking to. I assume that's who he's got to be closest with for the north and the south, right? Because Italy can make his life harder if Italy wants to. Mm-hmm. And Russia is the one with fleets in the north who can give France something else to worry about other than taking German centers. So that's got to be his best friend. He's got to hope he didn't sever that tie too much and work to get that. Because if he gums it up enough, he could force France to change directions, but he needs Russia all the way in to do that.
So yeah, you'd be negotiating a lot with Russia. You think there's any chance Germany can get Italy to do anything for him?
Yeah,
Italy's units are kind of running away from France now.
They are.
We don't want to make our French friends nervous.
we do not. Yeah, he should talk to England. He can talk to Italy about not doing any harm. He's got to find out if the Russian taking Bulgaria was arranged. In a way, it seems like it was, because he just walked out. But if it wasn't arranged, you have some tension you can exploit there, and that's I guess the pitch you have to make is those armies in Serbia and Budapest can either go take Romania and Bulgaria, or they can walk into Vienna and then slide into Tyrolean Bohemia. So he's got to make sure it's the former. So definitely conversations with Italy as well, but less about Italy helping and more about Italy not harming, I think.
I think that's probably a fair point. I have a question about your intentions.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to the fact that you've kind of been saved by France, and you said you told him you'd do whatever he wanted with that unit. But now you're in one of the most pivotal centers on the map. You're in Munich, and I have to wonder: are you actually going to do what you said? Are you actually going to, leave this unit at his command? Or are you in a way what keeps you alive in this critical center?
That is a good question. I think this season, where I'm at right now, my plan is to continue to do what he wants, because I don't think he's in a position to take it from me, and I do think he's in a position to help me keep it. And so supporting him into Kiel and not moving it seems ideal to me. If I move it, I forfeit any sort of supports I could be getting. So I definitely want to be using it as a support. And since it's Germany's home center, I don't think supporting Germany is a good idea, because Germany's going to want that back.
Probably eventually.
Probably, yeah. He may have some claim to it. But with France, you're right. There's a balance to be struck. I need to strike a balance where nobody feels comfortable taking it for fear that it'll advantage the other side. So in the short term, that means work with France, and I suppose I could reconsider down the line. We'll have to see what kind of mood I'm in. France
is now in this position. What do you think he should be? What do you think he should be doing going forward? I guess get into Kiel, break into the North Sea.
Yeah, he's got a couple lanes. I mean, North Sea's vacant now, so he can freely move Belgium. So that's a good candidate to support Belgium into Ruhr. And he's got Eddie to be forced. He can't force the North Sea yet until he gets the fleet into Eddie, because Russia and Germany can collaborate. So yeah, I say two options. He can keep pushing on Germany, supporting Belgium to Ruhr. I think there's a strong case to be made there. Then with my unit, he's got 3 on Kiel. Or he could try to cut a deal with Germany, now that Germany's one fleet lighter, and get a Janissary deal by putting Germany back into Munich and focusing on Russia. That's a little risky, but I'm not keen to his negotiations with Russia and Germany. Definitely great news for him that the Russian built an army, 2 armies. So that would make him feel more comfortable hitting Germany, I think.
What do you think about those Russian builds?
I think it reminds me very much of when Germany built 2 armies at a pivotal point earlier. I think it's a signal to France. Like I'm all in on not attacking you. He would have needed the 3rd Fleet in the north to seriously do that.
Yeah.
And maybe a little worrying for Italy, and maybe stemming from a fear of Italy's position in the south. He probably has a little bit of motivation to go and secure his position with armies. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go to Galicia and Ukraine.
That would be a turn. If we look to the southeast, we see that once again Turkey has won the guessing games with Russia, so he's still around to be a thorn.
Yep.
Side, and potentially the Italian side. What do you do if you're Turkey?
Play both sides a little bit, but you got Bull that's a sitting duck, so you're definitely pitching to Italy some sort of stab there, and there's if him and Italy really want to coordinate, he could defend Ankh with Khan and Smyrna, and still take Aegean, or still take Bull from Serbia, Greece, and Aegean.
That's a good point. That is very possible.
That's one pitch, and then the pitch to Russia is kind of fear-mongering about Italy, saying, listen, if you back out of the Black Sea and you back out of arm, I can help keep you stable, and I can nibble at Italy from the south. So he's got to play both sides. I don't know which one takes his offer, or if either one takes his offer, but that's what I'd do.
I see. And what do you do here? What do you do in this situation, you think, if you're Italy?
he built an army.
Yes.
Vienna's a walk-in. He's probably going to take that. He can't. Let me see. He's got the fleet into Naples. Probably going to go to the Ionian. I definitely don't go west. That's for sure. I might just keep working with Russia here and walk into Vienna, walk into Tyrolia, help Russia take the Turkish home centers, split them 2-1 in some way, and then once they're finished off, you two are already basically on that pivotal line with your armies if they work together. So I don't hate that from his perspective, which is bad news for Turkey.
Yeah, that would not be great for Turkey. If you're Germany and France offers you that Janissary deal you mentioned, do you take that? What do you think is Germany's hope here?
Whew. Yes, I think I do take it. Because you are, at least in the short term, you can take it now and break it later, but it gets him Munich back, which would be, I'm sure, the short-term pitch, and gives him another term of stability. And I don't think it costs him much this year. Although maybe part of the deal is, it depends on what France demands, I guess, because if France is demanding that he immediately moves Berlin to Prussia or something like that's probably too high a price. But if the deal is just put you into Munich, non-aggression, and don't interfere with me attacking Turkey and Russia in the north, that's probably a deal I'd take.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can certainly see that. And it's not as if Germany has a lot of good options right now.
No, it's just the least worst option is what he's doing.
Any good opportunities for Germany to try and collaborate with you see here? I know you said before that you didn't think that would be good for you.
No, I'd say I don't see any such opportunities. Mostly because I won't accept them. But
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I was just imagining what happens if Munich supports Aurora to Burgundy or something.
it'd be a lot of fun.
It creates chaos.
Yes. But yeah, that in certain games, if I had a better relationship with Germany, that's the type of thing I consider. But he might be put off by the fact that I haven't sent him a message in 3 years.
Oh, no, why would that bother him?
I don't know.
The French perspective. You built a fleet in Brest, I see.
Yep.
It's interesting. I guess it's close to your current front line with Germany. What was the intent there? Were you planning on moving that south or north?
Mostly, actually, it was about moving it to a place where I could defend against Italy. I think at this point, I'm actually not too worried about Germany as a power. He's basically crippled, so that wasn't a real concern. From this point in the game, the only real threat to my dominance is Italy. If Italy were to make a really strong assault into the Mediterranean, he could, threaten me. So an additional fleet pulling into Mao gives me some flexibility to defend against Italy if that happened.
And spring 1905, I see you do move toward Italy. And you also are moving north. You look like you could very easily launch a significant attack on Russia at some point in the near future, should you have the desire to. At the same time, You're not continuing to attack Germany. So I'm curious, what's the strategic thinking going on here?
The thought was to essentially make sure that I get the benefit of the German centers, right? The risk is if I get too far out continue the assault against Germany and attempt to attack Russia at the same time, I can push them into common cause with each other, right? And then they end up working together to push me back. Or even if they don't form common cause, I could somehow end up in a situation where Russia gets the majority of the German centers instead of me, right? So basically, I was trying to negotiate a bit of a reprieve to get Germany to be friendly with me and say, and trust me for a little bit, because I think, and basically have his defenses facing east a little bit, right? Because if you look at how this turn started, his defenses were towards me pretty much, right? He had this fleet in Hell, he had this army in Ruhr, right? And he is pretty weak against any Russian offensive. So basically just wanted him to reposition a little bit to the point where when I inevitably did start attacking him, which, should be obvious, I'm going to continue attacking him at some point, I just wanted to make sure that his defenses would crumble in a direction that favored me.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
What were you thinking what you were going to do in the next season with regard to Russia and Germany?
Yeah, my plan for the next season was I was a little bit indecisive at this point in that I was trying to decide if I could get Germany to actually support me against Russia, or if I would just would do the all-out assault on Germany at this point. So my plan was to try to convince Germany to just push out more towards Russia, consolidate my control of the northern oceans at least, right? So see, I'm getting into North here, I'm getting into Norwegian. That's the main. Those are two very strong positions to hold. So 1905 in general is just a bit of a positioning turn, actually, for me.
The German perspective. So, how are you feeling about this game?
Honestly, not so good. I prepared myself for French onslaught, but I ended up getting hit by 3 powers and did not see that coming. So props to France for putting that together.
I do think that was to his credit.
Yeah, absolutely. That was well done on his part. So I can recognize a good hit on me when it happens.
That it resulted in you losing Munich and Edinburgh and having 2 destroys. And you chose North Sea and Vienna.
Yes. So the reasoning here was that this would still let me take back Munich without question. There was sort of a burgeoning 3-way alliance between me, Italy, and Russia, or so it seemed in terms of talks. But there was tension between Italy and Russia sort of throughout, and there was a big question about whether this alliance is actually going to coalesce or whether it's going to fall apart because Italy and Russia can't get along. Russia wanted to build in Sebastopol, which Italy was like, no, that is a bad idea. Don't do that. I wanted Russia to build a fleet in St. Petersburg to fight all those French fleets. So Russia did something in the middle. What's that?
I said that would seem sensible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So the question for me in Italy to consider is, the question really for me to consider is, who is the biggest solo threat? Is it France? Is it Russia? Or is it going to be Italy coming from behind? So I actually, if I had to play somebody right here, I think Italy is in a good position.
I agree.
So I said to Italy, I was like, I think maybe you could solo, and he's like, obviously, I don't think so. I don't buy that for a second. I actually think Italy is the biggest solo threat, but the biggest existential threats to me are still France and Russia.
Yeah, I think at this point, if I had to place bets on who's most likely to solo, it's France and Italy. But yeah, you're squeezed between these two big powers on either side of you because, for whatever arguable flaws in Russia's planning as to how to fight France, he is quite large and he does have all those armies right near you.
Mm-hmm. Right, so that makes me just as nervous as having France there. This is the joyless part of playing Germany, is when you're too small to fight back against everybody surrounding you.
Oh, yeah. So, do you want to go into the spring and we can talk about that?
Yep, sure.
Right. Spring 1905.
So here I'd sort of said to France, look, you knocked me down a peg, you got some centers. Russia is your problem. Let me go fight Russia. Let me retake Munich. And France said, sure, let's DMZ Ruhr. And so far for this turn, that sort of worked out, right? They didn't move to Ruhr. I took back Munich. Russia had asked me what I wanted them to do with Warsaw. I said, well, why don't you hold it? And then if France seems like they're going to move in and it's going to attack me, maybe you can provide support and move in. We'll see. The idea was, so Italy was sort of like, I'm going to try to bounce, well, that we're getting there. Okay. So the big news here is that Italy and Turkey stabbed Russia, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Turkey stabbing Russia so much as defending himself.
But that's true. It's not a stab because they were enemies already. But together, Turkey helped Italy stab Russia.
Yeah, that's very accurate. And did you see this coming? Because I know you had mentioned there were tensions.
So I knew that they weren't getting along, but Italy did not clue me in. I did not. So the answer is no. I wasn't predicting this. I wasn't surprised, but it wasn't what I was expecting to see.
Yeah, I understand. And how do you feel about the way the season's going? The way this season went, did you feel as if you should, try to work with France now based on this turn of events?
I was open to it. I'm honestly was and still sort of am on the fence in terms of, will France leave me alone? Sure, they didn't move to Rome, but they also didn't take Burgundy and Belgium and Holland anywhere, right? Those armies are just sitting. And they're going to move in on me sooner or later. I have no doubt about that. So it's, how long can I hold off France? Russia's obviously not really committed to this fight against France because they tried to move down. Their fleets are going to be impotent essentially against 3 to 4 French fleets in the northern waters, plus my one fleet in Helgoland. So I don't feel great. I don't think my prospects are super bright, but yeah. I did actually, before the fall turn, I thought maybe I could make a little bit of a comeback. We'll see what happens.
The Turkish perspective.
This is Turkey discussing the moves in 1905. I tried to convince France to build a fleet in Marseille in winter of 1904. That didn't happen. They built a fleet in Brest. However, they moved the fleet in Brest to mid-Atlantic Ocean, which has been enough to hold off Italy for now. I was able to convince Italy to support my fleet into Bulgaria in the spring. There is a concern that Italy may just capture Bulgaria from me in the fall, and so I won't actually get to build there. However, I think that Italy will allow me to keep Bulgaria for now, though they may take it back in the next year. So that is a good thing that I've guessed right a number of times with Russia, and in fact Russia made some really, really bad build decisions. They built Army Moscow and Army St. Petersburg, and I think they really needed to have built a fleet in North Coast St. Petersburg and an army in Sevastopol. Those two things would have allowed them to have a lot more control over the board, especially because they made the, I'd say, ill-advised decision to move from Romania to Bulgaria in fall of last year. It's seemingly surprising the Italians, taking a center off of Italy, and giving Italy a great excuse to then attack Russia. Given that they were doing that, they needed to have built an army in Sevastopol. Given that neither of those things happened, and they ended up moving St. Petersburg to Moscow and Moscow to Sevastopol, so now they have two armies kind of in the area, but not really, and have lost both Romania and Bulgaria in the process. It's not looking good for Russia at this point, and I am guaranteed to be able to at least keep all of my home centers for this year, which is great news for me because everything is working out kind of as I predicted a couple years back, that Germany and France threatening both Russia and Italy respectively has prevented me from dying, and as Turkey I do have a lot of defensive power, and that is helping me out right now. I think that given that Russia has only 2 fleets in the north, and France is going to be able to put 3 fleets in the north very soon, my best, and somehow France has patched up things with Germany to a degree, which I don't think really makes sense on France's part. I think France should have just eliminated Germany, but nevertheless, since they are now working together, or at least not attacking each other, my best hope is that Russia gets defeated in the north by France and Germany, and Italy remains occupied by France in the south, especially if France can get another build, say from Edinburgh, and then in the future from Norway, Sweden, St. Petersburg. France will continue growing, continue to threaten Italy, and so at that point, Italy may have armies that they're bringing onto a front with Russia, but they won't have enough units to have a front with Russia, with me, and with France, meaning that I should have enough free space to hopefully capture Sevastopol, and if possible with that build, be able to build a fleet and move that into the Black Sea. And if I have a fleet in the Black Sea and a fleet south coast Bulgaria, I should have reasonable defensive power against an Italian attack later in the game if Italy were trying to, say, eliminate me from a 4-way draw to create a 3-way draw. So that's kind of my plan for the future, I have reopened negotiations with Russia because Russia has expressed interest in working together again now that Russia's not doing great, and potentially I have convinced Russia to move out of Armenia and start attacking Italy, because that's kind of what they wanted to do anyways, now that Italy, they feel, stabbed them. So hopefully that just gives me enough space in general to start recreating a board presence around the lower east corner of the map, and just trying to stick around for a while. Because if I can get up to, say, 5 or 6 centers, 6 preferably, it'll be really difficult to eliminate, and I don't think that anyone would go through the effort to do so. So that's kind of my hope right now. I need to be as non-aggressive to Italy as possible, so that Italy's happier with happy to let me capture Sevastopol and stuff like that, and doesn't then just send their 4 fleets all to attack me. Because if Italy ever decides to attack me at this point, I really am not going to stick around for that long, given only having 4 builds, or 4 units. As long as Italy is occupied with France, and hopefully will continue to be occupied with France, I should be able to be safe from an attack on their part. I think it's actually really good news for me that France decided to spare Germany and is instead seemingly working in the north and south, because that means France is attacking both Russia and Italy rather than spending their energy attacking Germany. I think if I were France, I would not have done that at all. I would have definitely made sure to just finish off Germany and then keep going north, because France can conquer the north at any time, given 3 or 4 fleets, and Germany is the one that's harder to conquer. And at this point, since France doesn't have Tunis, if they were to solo, they would probably need Warsaw to do so. So again, if they would need to go through Germany to do that. So I'm a bit disappointed in this French player, to be honest. I think they're being too nice to most of their neighbors on the board. They're giving Italy way more room than Italy deserves right now, given the number of units that France has, and they're giving Germany way more space than Germany deserved, based on France's relatively excellent backstab of Germany. I think they could have pulled off a better backstab if they had done it when I was thinking they should, but nevertheless, they pulled off a really good backstab, getting Austria into Munich. No idea how they convinced Austria to do that, given that I was not able to convince Austria to get supported into Romania a few years earlier. So Austria somehow decided to not give up anymore, even though they had for a turn. So anyways, but yeah, France did a good job there, but then they just didn't keep going with it, which really confuses me, because they needed to be attacking at least one of Italy and Germany, and really they're doing neither of those right now. And even if they attack Russia and start making moves on Italy, I think they're just being a bit too nice of a player in this position. They're France on 9 centers. They're about to get a 10th in Edinburgh. They could have probably gotten into Ruhr at the very least, if not taken either Kiel or Munich this year. Then they would have been a France on 11 centers, with 3 fleets in the north threatening Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and St. Petersburg, and being able to build a fleet in Marseille, essentially having 3 fleets against the south. So even if they don't capture Tunis, they at least can stalemate Italy there and prevent Italy from doing basically anything else. And they have enough land forces to continue fighting, pushing eastward. They were in a great position, and I just feel like, now they've relegated themselves to some sort of 3-way draw, which even if since they didn't go for Tunis a number of years ago, and they couldn't get that as their 18th center, going off the sort of stalemate line between St. Petersburg and North Africa, they could have very potentially been able to get Warsaw in this position, given the situation in the south, especially with me still being alive, causing enough turmoil there between France and Italy and myself, and even Germany perhaps. There was a very definite possibility of them still being able to solo here, and I think they once again threw away their solo opportunities. I think that the door is shut on Italy here as well. I think France is big enough at this point, despite their moves, that if Italy is not going to be able to put enough pressure on France to have any chance at a solo here. As I talked about, I believe last year, they would have needed to take Marseille and Spain and Portugal, and then I believe there's a line that gets them 18 through Sevastopol. So if they had captured Marseille, Spain, and Portugal, all they would have needed is capturing me, which would have been inevitable at that point, and Sevastopol, which also would have not been a difficult center for them to capture. So, Italy essentially doing nothing by just sitting in the middle of the board, not attacking me, not attacking France, has also really prevented their chances of going for solo, unless they go for it in a really unorthodox way of, I don't know, perhaps, attacking Germany and Russia and getting sort of, and then capturing my centers later in the game. But I think it's much less likely that Italy can solo or France can solo at this point, which ultimately means that I'm probably hoping to get in a three-way draw with Italy and France. Good job on Germany for staying around. I don't know what the diplomatic situation was like. I haven't really been talking to Germany, but, hey, great job for being able to recapture Munich and convince France to not move into Ruhr.
The Italian perspective. Your wicked plan against Russia clearly worked here. You took Romania, you got Turkey into Bulgaria. He must be very happy.
He's not. He was not happy.
Turkey was not happy?
Russia was not happy.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was saying Turkey must be very happy.
Oh, Turkey's happy.
Turkish recovery is beginning.
Maybe. We'll see. So spring went according to plan. The only thing I wasn't anticipating was France moving that fleet from Brest into Mao. Everything else was about as predicted.
The Russian perspective. All right, so here is the spring of 1905.
That's right. So some stuff has happened. And I think probably what's best is if I just read my message chain between myself and Italy to you. Here we go. Let me read from this point. I'll be honest, I would rather not see a new unit in Sevastopol. It makes me worried that you'd be preparing to go through me after Turkey is done. I think with our 5 units, we have enough to finish Turkey, and our new units would be better used elsewhere. Me. Whereas I am worried about you holding onto the land that you've promised to me, but have yet to yield. So long as you keep to our agreements regarding tutorial divide up, I have no intention of attacking you. I've enjoyed working with you this game, but recently I feel like our joint decisions have been more beneficial to you than to me. This is all to say, should I get Budapest, Ankara, and Constantinople, I will be a happy camper and ready to take out France. I mean, I did just give you Bulgaria, like I promised you a long time ago. I've been totally honest with you this whole game, which I can't say for you, and I've been helping you against Turkey. That's kind of a lot to indicate I'm not going to hold on to Budapest. And he keeps going. But yeah, and his arguments didn't make sense to me because from a tactical standpoint, I was really leaving myself exposed to him. And that's why I wanted to build in Sevastopol and Moscow and just protect. He gave me Bulgaria, yeah, but I couldn't really defend it, So I guess I could have if I just, focused only on defending it. But then Romania, yeah. So I don't know. Technically, his arguments didn't make sense to me, but he just kept pounding away, and eventually I gave in, and I guess that was my mistake. And I think he did pretty much the same thing with Turkey earlier in the game, convincing Turkey to give him Greece, and now he did it with me.
Well, I mean, what do you feel like your mistakes were here?
Just trusting him, basically. I mean, I knew in my heart of hearts that, I was really, making myself vulnerable to him. And I think, the best principle is good fences make good neighbors. And I was not building a fence like I should have been.
You were fenceless.
I was fenceless.
Defenseless.
Defenseless straight it. No. And it looks like he'll probably take Vienna as well. So whatever idea he had about propping up Germany, I'm not sure that's going to hold either at this point.
That's an interesting question, for sure. What do you think's next for the future of this game? What do you think is happening?
What's next for Russia? I guess the best way to spite Italy for stabbing me would be to let any of my losses benefit France rather than Italy. And, you know, spite is always kind of fun in a way.
Spite is a very practical and logical motivation.
If you can't have fun by winning, you might as well have fun by spite. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is working with Turkey. I've reached out to Turkey. He says, you know, if you do such and such, then I'd be willing to talk. And I guess I'm probably going to do those things because I don't think I can fight the two of them. And I'm not in the mood for trusting Italy. On the other hand, I might be, you know, yielding my position to Turkey. Actually, what he asked me to do is Warsaw to Galicia, Moscow supports Sevastopol to Ukraine, Black Sea supports Armenia to Sevastopol.
That would definitely put you in more of an anti-Italian rather than anti-Turkish stance.
Yes, yeah. At least I didn't move my armies up like Italy wanted me to. I was like, I'm not willing to go that far. He wanted me to move St. Petersburg to Norway, and, well, I wouldn't have gotten into Norway anyway, but...
No. Your situation is interesting. Do you think there's anything you could have done in the last year or so to keep yourself from falling into this situation?
Yeah, I could have built in Moscow and Sevastopol like I wanted to in the first place. And
And if you had done that, how much better do you think your situation would be?
Well, the question is, would I have been able to anticipate Italy's stab or not? And I guess what I could have done is moved Sevastopol to Romania with Black Sea support. But the likelihood of me putting all of my... obviously, the likelihood of putting all of my eggs into the basket of Italy's going to stab me was not high because I didn't anticipate it.
Yeah.
I want to say that I did. You know, you can roll the tape back. I said Italy was going to stab me, but I pretty much said everyone was going to stab me, so, you know, that doesn't really count.
You were worried.
I was worried.
About things?
But I didn't follow my instincts.
Well,
I didn't go with my gut.
Well, where do you think the balance of this game is going?
I think toward Italy and France continuing to thrive, mainly Italy in the next fall. I see him picking up centers. Yeah, I guess Italy is likely to get Romania and not worry about Bulgaria. But he could also chip away at Bulgaria at this point, right?
Bulgaria? You mean the one that Turkey
that he gave to Turkey? He could take it back because Turkey doesn't have anything to hold on to it with.
I think Turkey's army is still in Khan because I think you bounced him.
Oh, that's right. I bounced him.
Yeah. And does Italy want to take off Turkey after he used Turkey to help him stab you?
Probably not, but, you know, doesn't mean it won't happen.
Everything is possible. What do you see in the future? Not just the future for Russia. What do you see in the future for this board?
If I had to predict who would win, I would predict that France wins.
France is looking pretty strong.
Yes.
Right now in the Norwegian Sea, the North Sea, Mid-Atlantic Ocean, with armies poised at any time to attack Germany should he wish to. I think that's a fair guess. You know, I don't know what's going to happen either. Do you have anything else you want to share with the viewers before we?
I just want to apologize to the viewers for having such a bad turn and for not trusting my instincts, because I can picture your viewers, all 20 of them, saying, I mean,
you got me there.
Saying, no, don't do it.
Well, I'm sure you didn't disappoint your fans too much.
My fans.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they'll still buy your jersey and still come to your games. As always, it's a pleasure chatting with you. Because even when even when things are not going your way, you're still entertaining. You're still full of personality.
Well, glad that at least that's the case. I had an hour to console myself, so.
I'm glad. Although I will say, I didn't mind the idea of you doing the crying on camera thing. Hope you've liked this video, and if so, I hope you'll like and subscribe and check out more of my stuff. Until next time, Florida Man out.